2NURFM.com, a broadcast service of the University of Newcastle.
Joining us and doing some research on it at the moment, and looking at some accident victims that have suffered with that, from the University of Newcastle Health Sciences Research Department, Scott Farrell is with us. Scott, tell us, what is it about whiplash accidents that you're so interested in finding out more about?
Thanks, Dave. What we're looking at in my research is we're trying to find out some of the reasoning for people that experience whiplash injuries having long-term neck pain that doesn't quite go away. There's a good portion of people that have a whiplash injury from a car accident that don't quite get better and are still experiencing pain even a year after the accident.
Scott, are they predominantly from automobile accidents?
It's the most common mechanism for it. You can, from that forward and backwards movement of the head on the neck, you can get the injury through other means, even through a bike accident or through sports perhaps, but the rear-end motor vehicle collision is the most classic way of having the injury.
That sharp jolt, I imagine, the snapping forward of the head and then back?
Yeah. So it's like a quick flexion and a quick extension of the neck on the shoulders as your seatbelt holds your body in place as your car comes to a sudden stop. So the head keeps going, but the body stays still.
Does the body assist in healing with the problem, or is it something that you really need to go and get help with?
Look, most people will heal on their own. I think it takes a couple of weeks, and about 90% of people will just make a full recovery and won't have any issues. So just with the assistance of your GP or your physiotherapist, perhaps. But there's a small portion of people that will go on to develop long-term pain.
Is it more susceptible for males or females, or is it both pretty equal?
It's the evidence isn't particularly clear at the moment, but it looks like there may be a higher proportion of females that have long-term issues with neck pain compared to males, but the evidence isn't concrete for that particular fact. Yeah.
What can some of the symptoms be if you've suffered from a whiplash incident?
Right, so whiplash classically will involve pain in or around the neck and some muscle spasm and areas in the neck, but it can also radiate up into the head, so you can get headache from the neck, and you can also get pain down elsewhere in the body, so such as into the shoulder or even into your arms. People also have reported issues with difficulty speaking and difficulty swallowing, which is noticeably can be distressing for anyone going through that.
Is there a difficulty there in turning the head either side?
Yeah. So stiffness of the head, or decreased range of movement at the joints in the neck can be one of the main factors that makes things so difficult.
Very uncomfortable.
Yeah. If you've ever woken up with a kinked neck after sleeping funny, you could imagine that. Every little thing you do can be affected by pain in your neck and difficulty moving it.
Now tell us more about what you're trying to find out and ascertain from your study.
Right, so my study is I'm looking at a particular piece of anatomy in the neck called a meniscoid, which is kind of a small little piece of soft tissue that sits between some of the joint surfaces within the spine. And we think that these little soft tissue structures might be involved in pain. So we know that there's a bit of a variation in the anatomy of these structures in kind of cadaveric studies we've done in a dissecting room, but no one's really looked at them in a whiplash or a neck pain population. So we're thinking that if you imagine if you've got a piece of tissue sitting between two joint surfaces, as your head jolts back and forward, these little pieces of tissue can get pinched. And we think that perhaps damage to these structures might be some of the reason for the long-term pain that these people unfortunately experience.
And what will you be doing through your study?
So the study is going to be using MRI, so magnetic resonance imaging, to take a picture of the meniscoids in people that are experiencing long-term neck pain after a whiplash injury, and then make a few measures of the size and the shape and look at the tissue that makes up these little meniscoid structures, and then compare it to a group of people that don't have any issues with their neck, just so we can get a bit of an idea about some of the differences that might exist between the characteristics of these little bits of anatomy between the two groups.
And will you be looking at a range of age of people you study, including male and female?
So our age group is from 18 years old to 60 years old. That kind of seems to be the main age group affected by whiplash injuries, and so we're trying to hone our focus on that particular group within the population.
Okay. Now, how long will your study be going for before you hope to have some results?
So we're almost halfway through collecting data for the study, so we're hoping to have some preliminary results in the next couple of weeks, but the full paper will hopefully be published in a scientific journal by the end of the year.
We're so glad you could come in and talk a little bit about it this morning, because it's something a lot of people we know, maybe even listening with, have suffered with, but we don't know a lot about.
Yeah, there's all sorts of different theories, and our understanding of whiplash is improving. Professor Nick Bogduk, who was based here at the University of Newcastle, he did a great deal of work looking at treatments for whiplash. And there's also a research group up at the University of Queensland who are doing a lot of work in the field as well. But even though we're doing more and more research in the area, it still is a significant problem for a lot of people in the community.
Joining us this morning from the University of Newcastle's Health Sciences Research Department, Scott Farrell with Easy Listening 2 and URFM.